Now this first lesson, it's all about what we may call unsolicited advice. And it's totally fine and okay to stand up for ourselves, to create boundaries so other people are not going to hurt us or step into our personal space. But it often happens that the people around us, or often we ourselves, see someone living his or her life and we're thinking just what they're doing, it's wrong. They shouldn't be doing what they are doing. They should take a different path. They should change their behavior. They should have different values. A lot of different things. And as soon as we then go to people and tell them what we think they should do, which can often happen in the parent-child relationship, where the parents are kind of trying to enforce or impose something on their children, what they should do, maybe going to university instead of trying to become a musician, things like that. And we can also do this with our friends or just people we've never met, but as soon as we're telling them what they should do, even though it's most often very well intentioned, we just come across as very insensitive, inconsiderate, self-centered, maybe even arrogant, because subconsciously we're just communicating to the other person that we think that we are superior to them, even though consciously that's not how we're seeing those kind of situations. So in the end, it kind of never really works. And this also brings me to the second lesson. And the second lesson, it's basically an extension of the first one. And it's all about that we often know, or we basically always know what we should do. We know that there are certain things in our life that we should take care of, or that we should take more care of ourselves. Maybe that we should be practicing meditation because we know it would be good for our mental health, for example, but we're still often rather taking drugs or doing other things that are not very sustainable. And I guess most often we just know that there's a certain kind of work that we have to do, or that we even want to do, but we're not doing it. So it then often happens, now in relation to this first lesson, that we just deflect our own responsibility, or that we are kind of giving ourselves a false sense of righteousness and again superiority, or a kind of reassurance when we're criticizing other people, because then we kind of feel like, yeah, I know what's the right thing, I know what's the best thing, but it's something entirely different to then actually apply this to our own lives and to actually work on ourselves instead of just criticizing other people. So this third lesson, it's basically an answer to what I've been talking about in the first lesson, or an alternative approach to how we can engage with other people. And if, again, someone in our family, which I guess happens often enough, is saying something that we don't agree with, or is behaving in a way that's very triggering for us, if we are then not going to judge them and tell them what they should do differently, if we're then not going to close ourselves off from that person, the question is, how we then can deal with these situations. And if we just look at this, if someone triggers something inside of us, we can either, most often compulsively, just go into this tension or this feeling of being unsettled, or we can just become aware and conscious of not only what other people are saying, so we're not judging them, we're just listening to them, but we can also do this at the same time within ourselves, so that we are just listening to our own reactions to what other people are saying. And as soon as we're just listening to other people and ourselves, we are no longer bound or drawn into this compulsive behavior, in this judging, in this closing our hearts off from other people. And then, no matter what someone else says, it can be difficult, I know, but then the words, they are no longer really affecting us anymore. We can still be touched by other people, and there's still a connection, even more so. But it's not just always creating anger and tension inside of us then. So our mood isn't so much reliant on other people, but more so on our own awareness. Now, you probably heard about a lot of people saying, just be yourself, or just mentioning this kind of idea that if we are just ourselves, then everything's gonna be fine and everything's okay. And that seems sometimes maybe kind of weird or foreign, because maybe you're thinking, yeah, the way I am right now is not okay for me and I want to change that. So why are you telling me that I should just be myself? And the way I just want to put this or frame this in the way of acknowledging ourselves. And this simply means that we are no longer trying to push something away from ourselves. We are not trying to push any thoughts away, or any feelings or any sensations in our body. And we are just becoming aware of them, and thus we have this or gain this ability to come to terms with what's happening in our body and our mind. And if we can really just develop this quality or this way of being or this way of perceiving, we can then act in a way that's more in alignment, or that's really more beneficial for who we are, because we're acting in a way that's in accordance with what's happening inside of us, and we're not acting in a way which is in accordance to what we think should be happening, or to what we think we should be, which is then often based on false beliefs or certain things that are not as real as what's happening in ourselves right now. So in this way we can just learn step by step through practicing meditation to acknowledge or to just be ourselves. So when we are then learning or practicing to acknowledge ourselves, to be with ourselves, to see ourselves, to accept ourselves without all of these conditions that we attach to what we think we should be, we can kind of gain this ability or learn to tap into a kind of compassion, empathy, a kind of warm feeling or understanding that's okay for us to be who we are. And then we can also bring this to other people. So we're then not creating suffering around us. We are making life not harder for other people than it is already, but we can actually then learn to create harmony or be harmonious, be supportive, be comforting to other people. And for me, I've noticed that I don't want to just be in this way with the people who I think are deserving of it, which is then another condition, which is then another way of just holding myself down or keeping up my guard. But I think we can truly flourish or truly appreciate our being to the fullest when we apply this compassion to everyone, when we more and more learn to stop judging other people, but to just see everyone, no matter who they are, for who they are. And if you're practicing meditation, or if you really become aware of the way your mind is working, it's basically always searching for a problem. It's always in the search of something that is not okay, that is not right, that needs to be fixed or that needs to be improved, that needs to be changed. And I think maybe even the essence of meditation, or the most part, it's all about just realizing that actually everything is okay the way it is. Even the terrible things that are happening to us, just everything has a right to exist and some kind of purpose or meaning maybe that we can't really see when we're still attached to our own notions of this is right, this is wrong, or when we are still attached to creating a kind of separation between the good and the bad. And if we are no longer engaged with this kind of separation, then there's just like a great harmony, a great sense of being, of presence, of spaciousness, of acceptance. And I think that's actually something that everyone can tap into or realize for themselves. And if you're now curious about meditation even more than before, you can watch this video that I just recently created, which is called Why You're Struggling with Meditation. You can also watch this video where I talked about what my Zen teacher told me about awareness. And you can also find a few different kinds of guided meditations on my channel in case you want to practice meditation right now.